It could be the reason, or it could be a result of him hitting the guardrail, but he certainly has got problems. He's not going anywhere at the moment.
That is going to cause a big problem. Just look, it's right off the racing line here. Wouldn't take too much for someone to strike at 46. Meanwhile, Emanuele Pirro continues to lead. Round 10 of the World Touring Car Championship here on the streets of Wellington. And doing it beautifully. Sweeping down to the tight hairpin. Now, whether or not he can hold that lead, the BMW crew are banking on a pit stop at half race distance. Pirro will step out. And here we have the pace car on the racetrack.
Now this is going to cause problems for them. They are very marginal on fuel. They tried to go half distance to make do with just one stop so they could keep up with the Sierras. Out of the pits there goes Tony Longhurst at the wheel of car number 41.
We'll see whether or not he gets out. Yes, I think he did. So he was very fortunate on that pit stop. Alfred Hager sharing with Tony Longhurst today. Longhurst has turned in a blinder. Will he be stopped? No, he heads out.
They let him out. Now, there you see Mercedes Sturmit. She's waiting for her car to come in, and she knows, too, that they may well be held at the end of the pit lane as that car is being done. Car number 91, the Drink Pro Toyota Corolla.
It's been held till the pace car comes around again.
I don't know, because now there is pace car, and I don't know if Emanuele comes now. We are not sure if it's possible to go out from the pit now. We want to check with the ladies' car, and after we decide if Emanuele comes in the pit now.
Here's the number 47 BMW coming in. And Ed Moiverson stepping out of the car. Mercedes Sturmit's in. They were perilously low on fuel. Be interesting to see whether they get stopped or whether they are able to go straight back out onto the racetrack. They've done fairly well, just outside the top 10 at this stage.
Yes, indeed. As you heard Roberto Ravaglia say, this is a test to see whether or not they can bring Pirro in. If they let this car out, then they'll bring Pirro in. It just depends how the New Zealanders interpret the pace car situation.
Charlie Lamb waving out Mercedes Sturmitz. See whether or not she gets held at the end of the pits or whether she has to wait for the pace car to come around and pick her up. Two sets of rules. She goes straight out. So things are looking good for Pirro's pit stop. Field still sitting in behind the pace car at this stage. And the pace car slows up and we have them underway again. And they stream down the start-finishing straight here on the streets of Wellington into the right-hander. It won't be too long. Here it is, the pit stop. Emanuele Pirro stepping out and Roberto Ravaglia goes in. The rest of the field still going past the start-finishing line. A very quick pit stop by the BMW crew. He's got a couple of Sierras to chase. Pirro has done a magnificent job in the first half of this race for BMW, and now it is all up to Roberto Ravaglia.
I drove for quite a while, I think an hour and 15 minutes or something like that. It's extremely difficult because offline it's very dirty. The surface is breaking down a bit. So if you make a little mistake, you go a bit offline, or just to overtake the back markers is very difficult. So you want to be really concentrated, and maybe by the end of the race something will change, because it's very difficult to make a mistake.
Emanuele Pirro there. Meantime, the race leader, Klaus Ludwig, in the number 7 car, Ford Texaco Sierra. Notice Glenn Seaton also looking for an inside pass here on one of the Dick Johnson cars. See whether he's been able to pull that off there, running it out door handle to door handle down through Cable Street. But it's looking pretty good at this stage for Klaus Ludwig. Win Percy in the number 3 car, the Bob Jane T-Mart's Commodore, coming up behind David Parsons. That's a strong battle, and it's been raging now for 5th and 6th on the road. Just look at the bumps in Cable Street. Really pitching the cars around as they take the left-hander through Sony Turn.
Win is absolutely flying in this car. He's not had the best of runs so far this season when driving with Gracie, but now look at him go.
Putting plenty of pressure on young Tasmanian David Parsons. 5th and 6th, the battle on the waterfront at Wellington. Parsons doing a great job keeping up Brock's lap times early after taking over the car on the pit stop. And Percy is glued to the bumper of the Mobil Commodore. The right-hand king coming down to the hairpin now. Which way will Percy go? Sit down on the inside. Make your own arrangements, David. Percy goes through. That moves him up to 5th now in the Nissan Mobil 500. A great passing manoeuvre there on the inside. Now back onto the back straight. Oh, problems here for race leader Klaus Ludwig. The traffic is heavy indeed. Let's recap the placings for you on the Castrol scoreboard. Klaus Ludwig is our race leader. Roberto Ravaglia runs in 2nd for BMW. Pierre Dieudonné is 3rd. 4th is Glenn Seaton, and 5th with Percy. The Nissan Mobil 500 continues on the streets of a rather warm Wellington. And here's Jimmy Richards in the Cardinal BMW, 7th on the road at the moment.
He'd be the leading Kiwi at the moment, the quickest of the Kiwis. He had an earlier pit stop, in fact, for tyres, and I had a look at those tyres. They looked as though they'd been flat-spotted to me, which is no good thing to have on a racing car, because it means that they have an almost square piece on them and produces horrible vibrations.
Jim doing a great job. 7th. The Kiwis love to call him their own, but something that most Australians wouldn't agree with. However, his teammates should be crowing about that, young Trevor. They've had a fine record here in the Nissan Mobil 500 over the past few years, and here is the number 10 car into the pits. Neil Crompton steps out. David Oxton, his team partner today, steps in. Crompton has done a 2-hour stint in the number 10 car, and Oxton is now underway. Georgie Fury, or Glenn Seaton, I should say, in Fury's car number 30, coming up, and will look for the inside run up to the right-hander, and passes him with ease. So Georgie Fury and Glenn Seaton still in there. Pit stop also here for car number 17. Greg Hansford stepping out of the car. Dick Johnson goes back in. The Ford Sierra, they've done well. Qualified very, very poorly, but still in the top 10.
And there's problems there for car number 10. David Oxton at the wheel now. Smoke coming from the back of it. He's pulled over. Has got it going again.
Well, he's trying to get back out onto the racetrack just near Robbie Kerr's stranded machine and head back to the pits.
And the smoke looks to be coming from the rear end.
I think it's time for the kid to put on the red jacket, because the Oxton number 10 car heads back into the pits, and they have some big problems with the rear end of that car, and a very concerned Peter Brock.
We're not sure yet, but we think it's a support arm for the rear axle. It's just pulled right out of the body.
Car number 6, second of the Texaco Eggenberger Sierras, Pierre Dieudonné at the wheel, presently running 3rd in the Nissan Mobil 500.
And what a drive by these two. They've done it totally to team orders. They let the lead car through earlier on so that he could gain the maximum positions in the World Championship, and they've had to settle for a smooth, reliable run. And their next quest will be that BMW that's ahead of them in 2nd position.
Well, they've been talking about the Achilles heel of the Texaco Ford Sierras being transmission and rear end. Tell you what, they can keep dreaming about it, because these cars have just run absolutely superbly throughout this race. Pierre Dieudonné, the Belgian journalist, in car number 6, having taken over from Steve Soper. Stretches it down through Cable Street up to the left. Car number 30, Glenn Seaton. And they've done a terrific job. Glenn taking over the car from Georgie Fury. 4th on the road. They dominated the early part of this race last year. And the little Nissan has been absolutely a model of consistency throughout the endurance races at the James Hardy 1000 and the Calder 500. They're looking good here today as well. 4th on the road at the moment. Seaton coming up here behind a wall of cars, and in fact staying well and truly in touch with the number 7 car, Klaus Ludwig, stalking him through the traffic. Georgie Fury, no reason to complain. The kid's doing a great job out there. Seaton over the bridge. And they're there just to put the pressure on. He sweeps down to the left-hander at Air New Zealand, the hairpin. No problems with the 30 car, 15 car withdrawn earlier. And it's heading up, and that looks like one of the Dick Johnson cars pulling up just on the exit to that corner. Yes, it is. It's Dick Johnson, car number 17, pulled up. Where's DDB when you need him now? And 0-5, Peter Brock stepping into that car. David Parsons handing over to Brocky. And he'll have to do it the way he's done it in the last two Nissan Mobil 500s, where they lost time. And Brock had to come back and turn in some blinders to climb back into the top three. That's the way he's won his last two starts here. He's right behind Prince Leopold von Weyen. The Prince making a return to Australasia after a start some years ago in the James Hardie 1000. Brocky gives him the royal flush and heads down Cable Street into the left-hander. He really does know how to fling a car around in a street race, this Peter Brock. Absolutely incredible here. Sat in the top 5 early in this race, put a little pressure on Alan Grice. There's David Parsons. A wink from David, things are looking good. It looks a bit warm there.
I think it is. The temperature outside is pretty hot, and there's the Bob Jane T-Mart's Commodore, Win Percy at the wheel, and that car's in a few laps early, I think.
Certainly is. It's heading into the pits. Grice is standing by. Percy about to step out of the car. A few words to Gricey. Hello, Gricey making no move to step into the car, and mechanics all over it at this stage. Les Small coming around the back of the car, and they may well have yet another axle problem with the Bob Jane T-Mart's Commodore. Grice has made no attempt to get into the car. Percy is still out, and this could be curtains for them in the Nissan Mobil 500. Word coming from the pits. The back axle has gone out, so they're in for quite a lengthy spell. In the meantime, Klaus Ludwig in car number 7 continues to lead as he comes over the top of the bridge. Let's recap them for you on the Castrol scoreboard. Klaus Ludwig is the race leader from Roberto Ravalli's BMW. Pierre Dieudonné is 3rd. Glenn Seaton is 4th, and Brocky coming good, runs 5th. The Nissan Mobil 500 continues. Alan Grice rejoins the race, and joining us for the first time, Neil Crompton.
Yes, Mike, it's probably in circumstances that I'd prefer not to be joining you, but we had a problem with our car, and so I'm happy to come up here now and have a bit of a chat about the race. It's good to see Gricey back out there in the Bob Jane T-Mart's Commodore and circulating once again. I think they had a hub seal problem or perhaps an axle problem with that car, and he's being chased at the moment by David Parsons in our lead Mobil Commodore.
Gricey comes across the bridge. Still smoke coming from the rear of the car. And here's car number 6 heading into the pits. Pierre Dieudonné ready to hand over to Steve Soper.
Dieudonné then getting out of the car. Steve Soper getting in blisters and all. You can see there the frantic action of trying to do up the belts. Neil Crompton would know all about that. Trying to do up the belts now. The fuel, there's not as much fuel to go in because there's not so long to the end of the race now. We're only 3/4 of an hour away from the end of the race, so the stop's quicker in theory. Slight delay in starting the car, out he goes. And Steve Soper then now at the wheel of car number 6.
Roberto Ravaglia running strongly. Tony Longhurst going through there. Sharing with Alfred Hager, and some traffic here for Roberto as he sweeps to the outside. He's doing a great job. 3 cars still on the same lap. Klaus Ludwig, Roberto Ravaglia and Steve Soper. And Ravaglia at this stage appears to be catching, only marginally, the race leader, Klaus Ludwig.